Dr. Alex Sumner blinked the exhaustion out of his eyes. The recycled air tasted stale, infused with the metallic tang of 100 sleepless nights aboard the orbital station. He should have been asleep hours ago, yet there it was, flickering across his datapad, a transmission unlike anything they'd received before. It wasn't just the structure, utterly alien, but the energy signature it carried. Focused, directional, and far stronger than their most optimistic probes into the endless dark. Someone, or something, had replied. "Wake up, Alex!" His old friend, Sarah, the station's comms officer, shook his shoulder. "They're talking back! High Command's losing their minds! We need you down there, stat!" Alex stumbled after her, adrenaline finally kicking in. In the high-security communications center, chaos barely controlled hummed beneath a forced calm. High-ranking military personnel in crisp uniforms jostled with scientists in rumpled lab coats. At the center of it all, on the massive view screens, a baffling pattern danced. Lines and curves that pulsed and reformed with an unsettling rhythm. "We've isolated their frequency." "Well, what we think is their frequency," General Brock rumbled. A man built for barking orders, not grappling with the unknown. "They seem responsive in their own way. Each time we modify our signal, they shift theirs." "This is monumental," Sarah exclaimed, her fingers flying over the console. "Actual communication could be just days away. Think of—" "Think of?" Brock cut her off, fixing Alex with a glare. "Dr. Sumner, you're our resident word wizard. How fast can you get something workable out of this? We need to know what they're saying before the politicians decide preemptive strikes are the only solution." Alex stared at the screen, patterns flickering in his head like ghosts of language past. He'd spent his life chasing echoes of dead tongues, but this was beyond anything he'd ever faced. "I don't know, General," he admitted slowly, a knot forming in his stomach. "Days? Unlikely. Weeks? Maybe. This is more complex than anything we've imagined." The silence that fell was laced with tension. Every moment Earth and this unknown intelligence hovered in this fragile equilibrium felt like a countdown, not a breakthrough. Alex dove into the puzzle with a mix of exhilaration and mounting dread. The alien signals were a treasure trove, a Rosetta Stone of the cosmos, if only he could find the key. Sleep became an occasional luxury, snatches of rest stolen in the dimly lit backrooms now piled high with linguistic analysis software. Theories bloomed and died like exotic flowers. Was their language mathematical, based on pure logic like some theorized? Or did it twist through dimensions unseen, like the quantum signaling the physicists whispered about? Days blurred into nights, breakthroughs tantalizingly close yet maddeningly out of reach. "You're killing yourself, Alex," Sarah pleaded one evening, pushing a mug of lukewarm coffee into his hands. "You can't do everything alone." He'd barely registered her presence, his eyes glued to a waveform that seemed to shift and pulse like a living thing. Frustration gnawed at him, sharper than exhaustion. "Sarah, this isn't some ancient inscription. There's a mind behind this, an intellect. It might be as alien as the stars themselves, but there has to be a pattern, a reason." The station shook a violent tremor that slammed him to the ground. Alarms blared, voices shouted in panic, and through it all the alien signal remained steady. Alex stared at it, a chilling realization washing over him. This wasn't a warning. It was unconcerned. Whatever was out there, it didn't see the frenzy, the fear, as relevant. "They don't know," he whispered. "Know what?" Sarah had dropped beside him, her eyes mirroring his growing horror. "We're ants to them, Sarah," he said, "and someone just kicked the anthill." News reached them in fragments. Radar blips of unknown craft streaking earthward, Scrambled reports of defensive fleets vaporized before a single shot could be fired. General Brock's iron control wavered, replaced by a desperation bordering on hysteria. "Sumner, give me something, anything," he raged over the comm channel. "Words, phrases, a damn greeting. If I can just tell those bastards we're not a threat." But Alex had only silence. The alien patterns swirled before him, beautiful and inscrutable, the key to salvation or a death warrant. And time was running out. Days bled into a desperate marathon. Alex felt his mind fraying at the edges, haunted by the certainty that every wasted second brought humanity closer to annihilation. He abandoned elegant theories, chasing fragments, whispers in the linguistic noise. Food became an afterthought, his world reduced to the flickering patterns and the ever-present thrum of the unknown ships in Earth's orbit. And then, a breakthrough. Not an elegant understanding, but a brute-forced realization. It wasn't a language built on sound or symbol, but on energy itself. Patterns he'd dismissed as transmission signatures were vocabulary, a grammar expressed in bursts of radiation at frequencies just outside the human spectrum. "Sarah!" he shouted, stumbling towards the comm center. "They're transmissions. It's not just data. They're forming shapes, targeting our receptors. It's how they communicate." Confusion swirled around him. Then the scientists clicked, eyes widening. Their instruments weren't designed to hear like this. The aliens were literally shouting, but humanity had been deaf. Frantically, they retooled, feeding the signals through audio converters instead of linguistic parsers. The results were a discordant cacophony, snarls morphing into clicks, piercing screeches fading into mournful hums. But there was intent there, patterns emerging, a horrifying kind of music. "They're mapping us," Sarah breathed, her face pale. "Not our cities, not our tech, our bodies. Their language is a blueprint of their own biology." The military command center was a whirlwind of barely contained chaos. Brock bellowed for results, but Alex could only offer garbled snatches of the alien speech. It was filled with words denoting heat signatures, muscle density, frequencies he assumed were analogous to a sense of sight far beyond their own. Their translation was horrifyingly literal. Appendages insufficient, sensory cluster vulnerable, energy output, minimal threat. Humanity, through alien eyes, was weak, primitive, barely registerable. "Alex," General Brock's voice crackled through the comm system, tension twisting his features into a harsh mask. "Give me one good reason why I shouldn't wipe them from the skies right now." Alex stared down at his trembling hands. There was nothing in the translation about peace, diplomacy, or even curiosity. Just an alien mind recording its observations about a new, insignificant life form. Survival hung on a thread of alien indifference. "Because," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "they haven't noticed we're intelligent yet." General Brock let loose a string of curses that echoed the sentiment, if not the eloquence, of everyone on the station. "Playing dead it is, then. Everyone, scramble," he barked. The next hours were a blur of controlled panic. Power signatures across the globe dimmed. Cities went dark. Military bases vanished beneath camouflage netting, humanity playing an elaborate game of hide-and-seek with an opponent blind in all the wrong ways. Alex, roped into the charade, felt a sickening mix of guilt and adrenaline as he helped craft the deception. They fed the aliens false data, masking the planet in a cloak of technological backwardness, scattered tribes, localized energy sources, nothing that would attract a conquering gaze. In the hushed confines of the command center, they waited. The alien signals pulsed with unsettling regularity, the oblivious commentary of giants peering down at an insect colony. One wrong move, one unexpected energy spike, and the illusion would shatter. Then came the change, a tightening of their transmission beam, a focus on a specific point, the heartland of North America. Heartbeats thrummed in sync with the alien signal. They'd found something. Massive heat signature? Anomalous readings. Sarah's voice was strained. They're targeting Yellowstone. Yellowstone. The supervolcano. A slumbering titan. They don't get it, Alex realized with dawning horror. The seismic readings. They think it's a life form, something on their scale. It was a gambit born of desperation. Alex outlined it, voice trembling, the scientists aghast, and even General Brock wincing. They'd feed Yellowstone, controlled energy pulses, mimicking the rise and fall of a colossal organism, tricking the aliens into believing they had found a kindred spirit, a creature worth leaving the puny humans alone for. The plan hinged on a horrifying gamble that the aliens were sufficiently arrogant to not double-check their assumptions, or that if they did, they would mistake humanity's frantic manipulation as the movements of a massive uncharted beast. Days stretched into an agonizing eternity. The feeding of Yellowstone became a global effort, a symphony of precisely timed energy surges echoing a monster's heartbeat. And, incredibly, it worked. The alien ships shifted their focus, their transmissions filled with a new note, something that might have been startled curiosity. Reports trickled in, probes launched towards the caldera, their scans focused on geothermal activity, not on the cowering cities nearby. Humanity held its collective breath. Would the aliens accept this new apex predator, or would their insatiable curiosity unearth the fragile deception? Alex stood, haunted by his creation, knowing that Earth's survival teetered on the whims of a starfaring race that didn't even know they were there. The reprieve was bittersweet. Daily life resumed with a strained sense of normalcy, the existential threat still looming, but relegated to news updates and whispered worries. Alex, however, couldn't shake the dread settling deeper with each passing day. They weren't safe, merely ignored, and the knowledge festered inside him. "Alex, you need to eat," Sarah insisted one evening, shoving a nutrient bar into his hand. He'd barely left the lab. Sleep was a fitful nightmare of alien observations and Yellowstone's rumbling protests against their manipulation. "They'll be back," he muttered, eyes tracing the now familiar alien patterns. "Once they realize there's nothing at Yellowstone worthy of their attention." "Or maybe they won't," Sarah countered. "Maybe they've logged us as planet with annoying megafauna and moved on." Hope was a fragile flame he desperately clung to. But logic, his constant companion, painted a grimmer future. The aliens were explorers, or worse, conquerors. They hadn't left. Their ships still hung in orbit, silent sentinels observing a world too primitive to warrant extermination, yet too interesting to simply ignore. Then came the change no one expected. It started subtly. A shift in transmission frequencies, a realignment of their probes from the caldera towards centers of human population. Terror slammed into Alex, a cold certainty washing over him. They hadn't been fooled for a moment. "They were testing us," he whispered, the words tasting like ash. Mapping Yellowstone wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a trial run. They wanted to see how we'd react to a perceived threat. Sarah gasped, the implications sinking in. The aliens had been studying them, dissecting humanity's fear, resolve, and their capacity for deception. And they'd found it. Wanting. General Brock's face was a mask of grim determination when Alex brought him the news. "We knew playing possum wouldn't last," he rasped. "Rally every bit of firepower we have. If we're going down, we'll make those bastards bleed." The world held its breath as humanity braced for the inevitable. Alex, racked with guilt, could only watch as the alien ships descended, not in fury, but with an unnerving calm. It wasn't an invasion fleet. It was a science vessel. The chilling realization hit him like a physical blow. The aliens had never seen humanity as a threat. We were just an experiment, a petri dish of responses to be observed, catalogued, and then… what? Discarded? Studied further? The aliens were the scientists now, and humanity was their unwitting lab rats.